Good morning and welcome, everyone. This is a live morning space for artists, filmmakers, musicians, and creators who are navigating the real world of making art. On this show, we talk about positivity, but not the fluffy kind. We talk about what actually stops artists from moving forward, the struggles we all face, and how to move through them with clarity and purpose. We'll also highlight good things happening in the industry, share ideas, suggestions, and practical advice, and most importantly, have honest conversations. This is a live show, so if you're here, feel free to ask questions or join in. This is a place to reset, get grounded, and start the day moving forward as an artist. And good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. Have a little technical issue going on here, but as always, I'm here with you, and I appreciate you taking the time. Let's see what goes on here. Hmm. Sometimes technology tends to really hurt my feelings. You know, we don't know why, we don't know where it's coming from or why it actually happens, but technology, uh, it's a wonderful thing. I love technology. My gosh, I love it. It is an amazing thing. I'll get into like little gadget things and I'll see the AI world and I'm fascinated by it. And then when you're using it and applying it to certain things and you're trying to navigate through it, little things can put a big stop on it because, see, it happened again. Because I think that a lot of people don't realize the challenges that you're trying to solve with the technology. So you're trying to solve a certain thing with the technology, and technology sometimes it's made for itself. It's made whoever made the technology made it so they can serve a purpose of their own. And you needed to do what you needed to do. And sometimes that becomes a little bit different. So it's a little frustrating. But anyway, I'm on and off here on LinkedIn. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, I apologize. I'll have the whole recording for you from another source and I'll put it out there. See, there's the issue again. I'll leave it just like that. All right, friends. Well, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a little bit cooler this morning, but always a pleasure to be here with you. We're going to talk about something very interesting that's been going on for not, I guess it's been going on for not as long as we would think, but for definitely for the last 10 years to 15 years, maybe about 10 years, really, to be more precise. It's sort of the idea that as an artist, you kind of should be allowed to dictate the views of others, whether the viewpoint is correct or not. That's not really the point that I'm making here. I have no side that I'm taking here. I'm sort of taking the side of the fans, the people who enjoy art. That's where I'm really taking the side of, because I'm an artist, but I also love art, and I love to see an artist perform, and I love to see the values and and when you see an artist doing their thing at the highest level that you can, there's nothing more inspiring than seeing an artist do that. I don't care who it is, what they're doing, whether they're on the screen, like Denzel Washington performing at the highest level that you can perform, whether it's you know John Mayer or Joe Bonamassa performing on their guitar at the highest level, or Santana or Eric Clapton. It is inspiring. You know, a singer, when I hear Adele sing, or back in the days with Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and those legends, and you see them performing. And today we got Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga, and they're just amazing. And it's so inspiring when you see these in film, music, and in playing an instrument at a high level. And I love it. It just, you're there. I'm just just thrilled. And some artists that I actually personally know, I'm there in the audience and I'm watching them do what they do at such a great, inspiring level, you know. And one of the things that can really, really pull the rug out from under is for that artist to suddenly turn around and say, do not support my art if you think differently than I do. Whether it's a political or some ideology or something going on, right now, some kind of a social justice purpose or cause, whatever the case may be. If it's not related to the art itself and it's brought in to the space between the artist and the fan, right? Let's call them fans. Between that, and it suddenly this thing comes in, nobody asked for it, not the fan, not the artist, but the artist got emotionally charged and got triggered in a way that they're going to now use this ideology, or they're going to use this injustice that they think without have, maybe they have all the facts, maybe they don't have all the facts, maybe they're just very angry, and they're going to use that to alienate their audience and say, do not buy my movie, don't go to my movies, don't go to my concerts, don't buy any of my records if you believe this thing, or if you go against me on this, do not do it. And the audience, the fans, usually the fans are just like, but I like how you sing. I just like how you sing. I don't understand why I can't do that, you know? And that part of it really is, uh, to me, has been such a sad thing to watch. You end up thinking to yourself, wow, this artist that I've been following for so long suddenly now does not want me to pay attention to them because they think of this. And this is not like they think the opposite. Not that the fan thinks the opposite. The fan might have their own same views and may think of it that way. But a lot of fans, people think that the fan that thinks the way the artist thinks in some ideology, that the fan's going to be like, yeah, that's right. And you know what? No, they're not really. A high percentage of people goes, yeah, I like their music, and I do believe what they're saying on this cause. I do, but I'm like, I don't want to hear about that. I wanted to hear the song, or I wanted to hear them act, or I wanted to laugh. I thought that this was going to be entertaining, and it turns out to be some kind of a speech, right? And it's a strange trend right now that some artists are openly telling fans to not support their work if those fans hold a different belief or a different opinion or a different taste than the artist does. On its face, it feels widely self-defeating. That's what it is, really. Art has always thrived on tension, contradiction, and a wide spectrum of interpretation. Yet, this stance narrows the audience down to an ideological echo chamber. When an artist draws a hard line and says, if you don't agree with me, leave, they're no longer inviting people into their work. They're issuing a loyalty test that has nothing to do with the art itself. And that's my point, that it has nothing to do with their art itself. It's another thing that was, and now, yes, they can be angry about it. They can maybe do something behind the scenes and stuff, and they could even express it in front of people. But when they draw that ultimatum between them and their fans and say, if you believe this, do not ever go to my movies again, or do not ever do this, or do not ever talk to me, or listen to my music, or it's sort of like, oh, that's so weird. That has nothing to do with the music that you're creating that people like. You're just literally, killing your own art, and disrespecting the fans and disrespecting people that like you and maybe have the same ideology, but are like, I just like your music. And then those that don't have the same ideology, they're gone. So you know that for a fact. And usually percentage wise, it's about 50%. So you can see the numbers just kind of tank. And then you're sitting there wondering, like, was it worth it? Well, for some of them it is, because they're multimillionaires and they don't have anything to worry about financially. So they don't care what the repercussions are of their actions against their fans. They don't really care. They just want their views to be shown. They want to be righteous. They want to be on a stand on their pulpit and preach what they want to preach. And they want to, sometimes it's a little narcissistic. Let's face it. They like people to see them and like to see the people. So now they want people to see them be righteous and be put on a pedestal and think that people are going to be like, yeah, that's a wonderful, and they really don't. Fans are a funny thing. I mean, you can go out there and be very, very engaging and very popular, and not be paid attention to, and then you go out and just be a normal, do a normal thing, and suddenly you're top dog, right? Nobody really understands it sometimes. Even today in Hollywood, an A-lister is really having trouble getting people in the seats, for tickets. It's not a smooth thing now, where you have a very popular actor and just throw him on a movie and just think that, okay, well, this is going to make a lot of money because this actor is there. It's not the case anymore. There's some actors that are massively huge that couldn't carry their own films. It depends if it's a sequel, or if it's some IP that's very popular, like Barbie kind of thing, superhero Marvel kind of thing. Those are always going to do well no matter who's in it. But you take those actors and put them in leading roles of films, they don't do as well as they used to. People are just not really engaged the way they were. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we're bombarded with social media. We have a lot of different uh, options of things to watch and people to watch, and TV shows now. Netflix, it's got some decent stuff on there as well. Television is probably better now than it's been in a long time. Some of the things on television are almost like very cinematic. They're almost like watching a movie, right? And what makes it especially ridiculous on this is that it turns the art into a moral ultimatum rather than an expression. Fans aren't rejecting the music, film, or painting. They're not even rejecting that. They're being rejected by the artist. Think about that for a second. That flips the entire creative relationship on its head. And historically, great artists understood that once the work is released, it belongs to the audience as much as it does to the creator. When artists personalize disagreement and treat it as betrayal, they trade curiosity and complexity for outrage and purity, and purity signaling. The result isn't bravery, it's a shrinking cultural footprint. This is what's happening. It's a shrinking cultural footprint. In doing this, I think the artists, they lose credibility, they lose respect, from not only from, well, first of all, here's the thing, they lose their identity as artists because now they let something else get into the mix. They let something else kind of go over them and become, between and get between them, their art, and the fans. So now, where it used to be the artist and the fan, right? In between there, they threw some ideologies and a rejection and an ultimatum, right? And they lost credibility. So now they have all this other gunk between them and their fans. Now, let's talk about them and their art. Well, they were focused on this art. This is what got them there. This is what made them their millions, and they became successful based on focusing on this one art thing. Suddenly, they threw this thing in there. Now you're separated from your art, right? Because now people are seeing you as this righteous uh, activist, right? So now you're sitting there distanced from your art, and now here are your fans. Now you're distanced from your fan because you've actually put that there. Whether the fan is for you or not, now the fan that is still supportive and they may have the same views that you have, now they have this other thing on you. So now your art now becomes coded in this other persona, this other character, this other person. So now when they see you in a movie, they'll be like, oh, there's this person that really hates this other political person, and they're very, very much I'm on their side, and here they are on the screen now. By the time they all that goes in, they process all that. The film is the character is gone. They're not thinking with it. If you're singing and you're performing and you're on stage now, you're thinking, oh yeah, they believe that. And then if you're singing a song that kind of maybe goes against that viewpoint itself, now you're really, really battling uphill because now you're trying to have some kind of ideology come between you and your art while you're presenting the art to an audience. So now you're hypocritical on the art. You're also now being viewed as an activist performer, and then your art What kind of art are you going to make moving forward? Well, it's going to be based around that activism, and it's going to be that's going to be the foundation of it. So yeah, you'll have an audience, but it's not it's not the pure art that got the person to that spot. That's why they never succeed as much. And after they decide this, they go out and and some of them are brilliant actors and actresses and singers and writers, but they've taken this stance that kind of alienates a big portion of society, like more than 50%, by the way. At times, it's more than 50%. And that's part of the issue, art gains power by transcending the artist's ego, not by centering it. And that's kind of like what I was talking about. Now, the art is moving by the ego of the artist. It's not so much the art itself. So people aren't just listening to the music or watching the performance. They're now focusing on this ideology that's been turned into an ultimatum, and whether you're with them or without, you're now thinking, this is how they think, this is how they are. Are they really? They're not. They're pretending now. They're not that character anymore because we know that guy. That guy believes in this and he hates this and he hates this and he hates that. And she doesn't like this and she thinks this is wrong. And so now you're watching them without the idea of the pureness of the art that they're creating. There's another thing built in. There's another thing. When creators scold or shame their audience for holding different views, they reveal insecurity rather than conviction. Instead of letting the work speak, the challenge, provoke, or inspire on its own, they demand compliance. Now, isn't that a kicker? We've been forced to comply for years, decades, really. I mean, this whole this whole culture, this whole civilization has been forced on compliance, right? Whether you, as soon as you're born, you're given a social security number, right? You're labeled, you're ticketed as soon as you're born, right? Because you become suddenly you become a property, right? You become a property. Here's your number. Go off, make some money, so we can tax you, and so there's been so much compliance that we haven't even really paid attention to anymore. It's just part of who we are. Get a social security. Like, I have two kids, they got social security numbers. I didn't even think twice about it, but what are we supposed to do? Just run away and not have them be part of the society? Well, they got to be part of the society, right? They have to. They want to get work later on. They're going to need this. They're going to need social security card. They're going to need to be legal, prove that they're legally belong here in this country. Although that's another conversation, but they need to be part of it. So you got to go along with some of the compliances early on, right? Now, what gets us through life? What makes life bearable sometimes for people? It's art, it's beauty, it's music, it's film, it's being inspired by a performance. It's art, going to a museum and seeing these beautiful works of art. That's what fuels life. That's what gives us the inspiration to go on and to create if we are artists ourselves, or to just go out and have a different viewpoint on life and be able to impact somebody's life. That's what makes art art. That's what we have. That's what gives us this joy. And now here it is being mixed into this compliance thing that we've been on for our whole lives. How powerful is this art going to be now in our lives? Now that it's been stuck into, like, well, we have to, this is the ultimatum in order to listen to that music. And we need our social security card in order to get this job or a number. We need to have this. You need to have a resume. You need to comply. You need to show up on time. You need to raise your hand if you want to talk in school. You need to early on, we're being taught, right? You're in your office. Here's your cubicle. There's your life, and we're complying. Now, our favorite artist is throwing another compliance at us with the thing that we love the most, the escape that we have when we listen to music, when we watch an amazing performance or a painting, or we read an amazing novel. That escapism that we have, that beautiful thing that elevates us, and shifts us and has us changing our viewpoints and building a stronger society based on that love of the music and the art. Now that's been fused with an ultimatum on an ideology, you see, and that is no longer now art. Now it's activism, which is fine because that's a thing too. But now the art is coded in this activism, and it's very difficult, very easy to step into that. Trust me, it's very easy to step in, very difficult to step out. Once you took a stance on something and you make this huge giant statement, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, I'm talking about both sides that make this thing. Suddenly when you make that stance, maybe you're an artist that you're like, you know what, I've done enough art right now, this is my passion, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to just be an activist, I want to just fight this battle. That's awesome and that's great. But the art itself, if you're thinking that you're going to go back and be a normal artist again, think again. It's not going to happen. It's very difficult to leave once you got in, right? It's like just when you think you're out, they pull me back in. Um, so audiences can sense the shift immediately, once you force compliance on them. And many walk away not because they disagree, but because they no longer trust the artist to respect them. See, that's another thing. The respect to the artist. This is what we're trying to do is we're trying to to get respect from the artists that are creating this amazing work. And we love it, right? But man, come on, man. What's going on? Do you actually think that we feel respected by an artist giving us an ultimatum, you know, or trying to preach some ideology as they drive off into their $1 million mansions? It's such a bubble. They feel like their voice has so much power, and it really doesn't. It's like I'm not going to if I'm following a football team and I'm really really rooting for the Titans here in Tennessee, you know, and then I talk to a doctor and the doctor tells me how he hates this football team. That's not going to bother me. I'm not gonna be. I'm like, I just know that doctor is just doesn't like this football team. That's it. Why did he tell me? I don't know, but it's not swaying me. People aren't gonna get swayed really too much, on their ideologies based on a actor or a singer saying something that they believe in. They may have a large platform and get a lot of attention on it, and so it draws attention to that cause, which is maybe all they want to do, you know. But then when they go off to continue their art, now they have this label on them. They also didn't trust. They lost the trust of their audience, or at least a big portion of their audience, because now their audience is always wondering, oh, are they going to talk about this again? You go to a concert and they stop in the middle of the concert to talk about some ideology or something that they believe in or whatever, and maybe the audience is like that, but you'll always hear people just kind of silently just being like, just play. Just I came here because I really like that song. I really like that album that you came out with 20 years ago. Can you just play the album? Can you just play some songs from that album? And I want to sing to them. I want to have a good time. I want to leave here not with the world on my shoulders that is already out there, and now have it be heavier in here while I'm trying to enjoy this performance. Please, for the love of God, can you just play the song? Can you just play the song? Once that trust is gone, let me tell you, the art loses its resonance. It and artists and the artists lose the very people who gave the work life in the first place. This is the funny part of it. It's those people that you're preaching to are the ones that actually are supporting you, that like you, but they like your art. They don't care about what political views you have or what you think is happening out there that maybe you have a completely distorted view of. If you sat down maybe and sat down with somebody on the other aisle and maybe got some information, but there's this weird divide right now, brilliantly put together by media and by platforms. Brilliantly, I mean, just it's so very impressive. I mean, very, very impressive. the way that the divide is set in. Even the algorithms of our phones are only geared towards to show us the one side of things. So this way, we only have that one view. It's up to you to go out and research both sides, so you have a good painted picture of like, hey, this is what's happening, and these are the numbers, and this is actually the statistics, and these are the people that did it before, and from both sides were doing the same thing. And once you get that information, you get a much clearer sense of where you are, and then maybe you can come up with this ideology that maybe is a little bit more like, we really just want to love each other here. We want to create good art, and we want to build a civilization that's going to be safe for our children and our grandchildren. That's really the key factor of what we want in our lives. We don't necessarily care what you think. We care about making the world a better place. And if you have to then tie in your ideologies to the show or to the film or to a speech, and then it's sort of like, well, I already hear all that outside when I'm out there, when the media is on, I'm watching the news, or when I'm scrolling through I'm already getting all that information. Now I'm coming here and I paid money, paying a lot of money for this art. And here we are being preached to by someone that, it's like, can you just do your art? That's why we love you. We love you because of your art, not because you believe in this one thing. Well, that's my take on it. Again, I'm not taking any political side here. Some people who know me may know that I have a political side, and that's fine too. I've let stuff out of the bag, so to speak, on some of the things that I believe in. Um, and someday maybe I'll do a whole show on my belief, and it won't be able to be on certain platforms, but I could always go to one platform that always allows me to say what I want to say, which is always a nice thing, and millions of people will watch there. But I don't necessarily feel like that's part of. I don't have any experience in that area, so I'm going to give my views in a comedic way. I'm going to observations in a comedic way, something that I think is kind of weird, and that's as far as I'll take it. I don't think anyone should listen to me. I don't think anyone should make any decisions or any views based on what I say. I think you should go out and research and look for things on your own. And if you want to take those platforms and research on those platforms and get some more data, and then make a more educated assessment, and then make a decision based on that assessment, you have every right to do that, and I'm totally fine with it. But I have no place in coming in here and giving you a side to pick, or telling you what I think is wrong and that you should think this way. That's not my position. Of course, I'm not a celebrity like these other celebrities are and have the platforms that they have. But just being on any platform, if you have 1,000 people listening to you, that's 1,000 people that you're trying to influence. Well, it's not really fair. Why? Who am I? I'm an entertainer. I like to play guitar. I like to make movies. I like to act in movies. I like to write. I like to do social media content. I like to help people. I like to help artists with my agency. Those are the kind of things that I'm into. Not necessarily being a spokesperson for a cause or for some ideology that I really am not a professional in. I shouldn't. I have a view on certain things, usually with a comedic twist, and because of the ridiculousness that I see in it. But maybe somebody else can shine a light on it, and then it becomes not ridiculous, right? So it's a very, very sketchy way sometimes. And I'm always confused when people do it. I can't say that they have the right. We're in America. We have freedom of speech. We're allowed to say whatever we want to say, whether people like it or not. We know we've already battled that idea of being able to say the things that we wanted to say, right? And that was not allowed, right? With the whole misinformation campaign but people are allowed to say what they want to say. I think it's a right that we have in this wonderful, amazing country that we have the right to say it. We have the right to think the way we want to think, say what we want to say, act the way we want to act. I mean, as long as it's all legal, you can't break the law. We can't break into places and do things like that. That you have to pay the consequences of that. Follow the law. But you can say what you want to say, and I respect that. All right, friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this morning. As always, pleasure to be here with you. I'll be here tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is Friday, the end of the week already. Man, this week is flown by. What a couple of weeks we've had here in Nashville, Tennessee. Still saying prayers out there for those who are still out without power here in Nashville. I mean, believe it or not, there's still a lot of people without power. They're trying. I know that the National Electric Service, men and women are working 24/7 to try to help those people get power. But this ice storm did a number on some things. It was probably the biggest ice storm ever in Nashville on record. It's knocked out a bunch of stuff. So my prayers to all of them working out there in the cold, and all the families who've lost power. God bless you all. Hope you're all doing well. All right, friends. See you all tomorrow morning. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you all. And as always,